And we're live. Let's get stupid. No, this is not Let's Get Stupid. Oh, be better. Good start to the podcast. I've said that too many times. Be better, episode 10.
We made it 10.
10 weeks.
That's actually pretty impressive.
10 weeks in a row. You
I've
only
been
missed
gone for 3 of them.
2, 3?
I've been gone 3 weeks. But I've
Oh,
only
because
missed
Haley did one.
2. Yeah.
Haley did our first one, but I uploaded it second, right? Because you were
Right.
gone. So like you missed it, but you didn't.
Right.
I already recorded it.
No, but you've done 2 by yourself.
2 by myself.
And then 1 last week.
With Lauren. And then
Yes.
Haley.
Yeah. But I was here last week. It's just you had Lauren lined up.
Yeah, I just
that's
had a
great.
guest lined up.
Yeah,
so.
of course.
That was a long one.
Yeah, just so in case anybody's wondering on the format, the goal isn't that it always is Tom and Jacob sitting down. It could be Tom and Lauren. It could be Jacob and somebody. It could be Tom and Jacob. It could be Tom. It could be Jacob.
Yeah. Use the studio. Use it. You got the
One
key.
of us.
You got the key to the door, right?
Just come right. I'm going through the window.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah, knock all my stuff over as you come in.
Perfect.
I need to clean it up. Looks terrible over there. Still a little on construction. I still got to do some door trim.
Yeah.
Got to do a little sign up there. And then I'm pretty much done with construction. And then it's like decorating and putting the bar up. And I got to buy a bar. So do that. And then just decorating.
You go to some garage sales coming up. Spring cleaning.
Selling bars?
Yeah, people sell those. You know, they'll have like a bar in their basement, just like a, like a 4-top, and they'll put it out and $60, $70, whatever it is. Paint it up nice. You're good at redoing that stuff. Yeah,
I'll make Amber do it. I wanted to do like Mark Bell's. You know how we like stand and do his?
Yeah.
He's got a nice standing setup.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about something like that, but I'm like, I also don't want to spend $2,000 on a high table. So we'll see what I come up with in the next month. I plan to get that all buttoned up. So
I believe.
But yeah, 10 weeks in. And yeah, sometimes they're going to be 2.5 hours with a chick that I went to high school with and school with. That was my neighbor. Sometimes it's going to be I hop on here for 10 minutes and do some motivation stuff. Sometimes it's me. And a lot of times it's kind of our setup is like before we squat, we do like, okay, we don't have we don't have an hour and a half before we squat, but Jake would hurry up with his kids, get over here half hour early. We're already going to be squatting, in 30 minutes. And then we can, go squat right after this. So just trying to get some good content out for everybody.
Well, and it's a good segue into what kind of I was thinking about, which is you don't have to be great, one time to be great. You just have to be consistently average.
Yeah.
And I know that, again, kind of like the last time I was on, we were talking about how being better doesn't always mean something different.
Mm-hmm.
I think in this sense, people say be better, and they assume that, oh, man, I've got to have, like, the work ethic of, like, a Michael Jordan, or I have to have, this sort of crazy level of talent. And I don't think for most people that's successful people, highly successful people, I don't know that they're always the most talented. Don't get me wrong. There's some talent involved for sure. You can't be an orange and try to be an apple. Like there's some things that you're just going to be better at doing, and I think people should lean into those things. But at the same time, I think if you look at the top of any field, any career, the person who's usually like the few people at the top, maybe one of them gave no effort and it just came so naturally to them. But a lot of people, they were just good at it, but they had to work really hard consistently to be great at it.
Yeah.
And, I think talking about, obviously we can bring it back to lifting for you. I think you were always going to be a great squatter, but if you didn't consistently work at it, you would have just been great like once or twice.
Yeah, or I just would have been good.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Tom's a good squatter. Like, for me, if someone's a good squatter, like, probably squat 500.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a different world, right? Because if I think 500, I'm like, yeah.
Right.
I did that when I was 16.
Right.
But, like, in general, if someone's at the gym, like a commercial gym squatting 500, some person's strong. It doesn't really matter if they weigh 300 or 100 or 400. Like, that's a strong person. But, yeah, it's easy for me to think about it because, like, my brothers were all good squatters. I just never stopped.
Right.
And I, continually pushed that next level. And I wasn't great right away. I was genetically gifted, right? We just call them Kallas quads. All of us have bigger legs. I just was able to consistently just show up week after week, year after year for almost 2 decades and squatted. Like I've been squatting since I was 13 years old. And over time, like you do anything for 17 years, you're probably going to be pretty good or pretty great at it. You're going to be one of the, luckily I've been, I'm still ranked in, I think, 2 weight classes or 3 weight classes for all-time world record. I think I'm number 2 in 2 of them and number 3 in the 198s. I might have dropped off of that one, but definitely the 165 and 181s, I'm still top. I think I'm still the top American, number 1 American, and top 2 or 3 world. So, like, but just consistency, right? I'm just from not like a special person or anything. I just showed up. I was able to train around great people, got under, John Jursick and showed me through the Lily Bridges and, trained under Silent Mike, got beat up a little bit, trained with you, learned from you a lot, kind of came up with our own things.
Yep.
Bounce a lot of ideas back off each other. And it's funny because I had like somewhat of a question on like what did I do? A Q&A today. I'm still doing it. And it was about how do you become a better at your sport or better squatter, better lifter. I think it was a better lifter. I'm like, you just have to, I left this out, but you have to be consistent, right? You also surround yourself with people that are better than you, right? Yeah. So like you were better at rehab and training with conjugate. Me, that was a different world. I should say prehab and rehab. I didn't do either. Well, I was forced to do the second one. I was forced to rehab something. But that was a different world for me. The bands were a different world. I shied away from it. All your techniques, I told you, no, I'm not doing that. And then I ended up doing them and liking them. So it's like you need to be around different things. If you're around the same person, the same people, you can get pretty far, but you need someone else pushing. It's like for my training for this prep, going to Finn's. Like he's an awesome bencher. Cam's an awesome bencher, but I never bench with them. I just bench here at 5 a.m. by myself typically just because convenience, right? Yeah. So I had to get out of my comfort zone, leave my house another night, and go do something out of my way to try to get a little bit better at something I've been doing for a long time. But it's just showing up. That's all it is.
But again, the lesson in there is you were consistent with your training. And as your needs changed, you started changing your methods and figuring out new things. But anytime you made a change, it wasn't perfect right away. I would even say this prep, you're going to look back and say, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. Mm-hmm. So the thing isn't to be great that one time. It's just to be consistently good. Yeah. Because you start adding that up, that's what equals greatness. And I think when you look at people from the outside in, the common quote is like the overnight, success was 15 years in the making, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's really easy to say, oh, well, Tom squatted whatever at 16 and he was God's gift to squatting. Well, guess what? You could have all the gift in the world, but if you didn't actually squat, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter one bit. You can be the greatest squatter in the world. If you don't consistently work at it, you're not going to get better at it. It doesn't happen like that. Yep. So the idea of being better, again, it's not that you just have this inherent greatness. It's that you cultivate the discipline and the work to develop that being better.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes, it's outside the gym too. It's right. It's in your marriage. It's in taking care of your kids. If you're the same dad when your kids are 8 as you were when they were 0 or 6 months, like it's probably not a good sign. Either you were very, 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 very well prepared. You knew exactly what to do, which nobody does. Or you missed a lot of things and you probably put onto your kids some of the bad habits that you maybe got from your parents or that were gapped in your childhood, and then you're just going to repeat them and the cycle's never going to break. Not that it's not necessarily the worst things in the world, but sometimes things get gapped that we miss and we end up just projecting them onto our kids. So if you just, you might not feel like you've done much in the past, let's say for New Year's, right? So it's almost the end of March, so it's been 3 months. Maybe you felt like you haven't done much this year. One, there's still time, right? Just because a quarter of the year is over, you still got 75% of the game left. And two, it's like you got to look over time. You can't always get down on yourself because nothing's immediate, right? I think I'm a big instant gratification guy. I think that's kind of why I chose powerlifting over bodybuilding after I got done with bodybuilding, because it's like, one, it's easy to see the numbers, right? If I squatted 450 and 3 months later, if I squatted 475, oh, great, I can see it instantly. Yep. I might not look that much different, right? But my consistency in showing up can show on the numbers very quickly. Yep. So you always have to look back and like, okay, who was I 5 years ago? Who was Jacob before kids? Who was Jacob before Alicia? Who was Tom before? And if you could see that the change is happening over the years, that's a pretty good measure of progress. Just because we see everybody's highlight reels, like, oh, must be nice. Jacob's all of a sudden, now he's training professional athletes, and now he's building schools in Africa and basketball courts and hospital. Like, how did he do that so fast? Like, it wasn't fast. It's not fast at all. It's just because lately it's been consistent, but it was never fast.
Yeah, and I think I think with the relationship side, you know, how you were saying you got to be, you know, you have to look and say, are you better than you were as you're going through all that? You also have to remember that just because one time, you know, let's say you had one bad day, everybody has it. Whether there's a relationship with your spouse, with your kids, maybe you didn't react the right way and you think about, I should have done that better. You know, again, you don't have to be great and perfectly on. It's just that you have to recognize that mistake and say, okay, I'm going to try better and I'm going to try to do better. And you're going to consistently work on that. And, you know, same thing with me in training. I used to have a lot of people, a lot of coaches DM me and they're like, Jacob, I really want to, you know, I want to do what you do. And I want to do this, you know, what does it take? Or what should I be doing? Where should I intern? And I'm like, you got to go find a gym or a team, whatever environment you want to work in. For me, it was a private gym. And you've got to intern there. And like, well, they're all unpaid. I'm like, okay, do you want to do it or not?
Right.
Well, it's unpaid. I need to have something to get paid. I'm like, okay, then get another job. But if they're all unpaid, the only way you're going to get in is to take one of those unpaid ones.
Right.
It's not like there's one or two that are unpaid and the rest are paid and you're just not getting those. That's just how the industry is right now. And again, this was, a long time ago. But, you know, my very first job, and this is after, you know, 4 years of school, 2 years of grad school, you know, I was making like $700 a month living in Chicago, which is nothing. You know, I had to live with swingers and this whole other thing. Like, it's a whole another story. But the point is like, there was nights where I slept at the gym. I just slept there because I was working from 5 in the morning all the way through. I closed the gym down, mopped the floors, vacuumed the turf. We had to vacuum almost 30 yards of turf every single night. Slowly. You can't vacuum turf fastly or fast. It doesn't work. And then like we cleaned the bathrooms too. We didn't have a cleaning crew. And so I get everything cleaned up because I'm the new guy. And I'm like, it's 11:30 at night. I got to be back here at 3:45 if I want to work out myself. I might as well just sleep here. So I just pull out a gymnastics mat, or we had this old ratty couch. Like, I just sleep there. And I'm like, I don't think people understand the level of commitment it takes. And I'll be the first person to tell you, day one of me training, I was not the coach I am now by any means. I was good at it for sure. But it's not like I walked in day one, I'm like, hey, I'm the greatest thing you guys have ever seen. You know, call
You're
me
welcome.
Charles Atlas Poliquin Schwarzenegger. Like, it doesn't, that's not how it worked. But because I was so consistent with my work, I was so tuned in, let me figure out ways to get better. You know, over time, you add that all up, and then you get the Jacob you have today, who, you know, I can walk in and meet Tom, and he say, hey, I just, you know, this tore or that messed up. I'm like, oh, well, let's try X, Y, and Z. And 90% of that stuff works right away.
Yep.
That wasn't me 15 years ago. And people miss that because the other part of it is people don't pay attention to you until you're really great.
Yep.
So it's not like it's anybody's fault. It's just you see me at this level now and you're like, oh, that's just how it is. And it's like, no, you never saw me when I wasn't good because nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cares about, you know, mediocre. Nobody wants to watch that. There's nothing on TV that's mediocre. They pull it off the air. Right? There's no music that's mediocre. It doesn't get streamed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people only start paying attention when they see greatness.
It's funny. Last podcast, me and Lauren talked about like doing the jobs that nobody wants to do, and it seems like,
yeah, I love that, by the way. I listened to it. Loved it.
It was, you know, it's a real good point. But to me, and you, and her, obviously, and a lot of other people, it seems like normal. Like, okay, if your first day, like, you know, as a painter, you got you're just cleanup guy for 6 months. You know, as a trainer, you're cleanup guy. You're the turf carpenter, rug cleaner. You know, you're everything, and then you're picking up some stuff left and right. You know, when in a position where Cam is now, where I used to be when I first started with the same company, because we got Cam into the same line of work that I do. It's, hey, you put out cones and you get water. And you drive a truck and I tell you where to go.
Yeah,
that's it. There's nothing to complain about. It sucks. You know, you hope you try to get out of that position as fast as you can, but it also has to come with picking up knowledge as you're in that position. If some people just sit there and complain about it or say, I'm better than this, maybe you are, but it doesn't mean you're not going to do it. You know, we always have a saying, you're lower than whale shit. Like, you're at the bottom. You have to work your way up, and two, you have to prove yourself. You're not going to show up and be the best trainer on day one, or I don't know, day 1,000. You know, I'm not going to be the best lineman day one or day 1,000. You're not going to be the best dog trainer like Lauren was. Or is, I should say, rather. But it's the consistency of, even if you're just average, you show up, you know, what is it, 10,000 hours? You're there for 10,000 hours, you'll be very good at the end of it. But people, it's not it's not pretty. It's not fun. You don't brag about, hey, what did you do today? I vacuumed turf for 2 hours. What are you doing tomorrow? I'm going to do the same thing.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
nobody wants to talk about it. You can't brag about it online.
Nope. Nothing to brag about.
Oh, well, at least you're probably making good money. You're there 15 hours a day. Oh, no, I make like nothing.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds like...
And I'm living with swingers.
I got a place with some swingers. Things are looking up. Yeah, so it's not... You can't brag about it. You can't tell your friends about it. So it's like you got to sit in that shit.
Yeah.
For years until you can get out of it, or finally you move up in the company or move up in the business that you're at. But it's not often talked about anymore. I don't know why it seems like people are getting away from it, but it's like it's much needed, because that you're not only going to be able to consistently show up when it's bad, because over time everything's going to get better, right? But it's also going to teach you grit and appreciation. Yep. And when somebody doesn't appreciate where they're at, like we see it a lot with younger guys that get into the company we're at, we're like, dude, this is a very big opportunity. Yeah. And if somebody gets to train with you, like under you, it's a very big opportunity. You have to like soak that in. And if they don't have that appreciation, you like write them off immediately. Yeah. And they don't have it, kind of no fault of their own, but they never earned it.
No,
right?
I mean, it's funny. The last few days I've been downtown. Luau was in town doing Bulls appearances. And Joakim Noah was there, and Carlos Boozer was there. Tom, you're such a big basketball fan. I know you know all these guys.
I heard the second name. I don't know the last one.
Yeah. And one of the things that they were talking about, because in that situation, even though I know those guys, I'm the odd man out. I didn't play in the NBA. Right. I wasn't on their team. You get that bond of, it's like if Luau would come here to lift. He's not going to be me, you, and Cam like within that conversation. He's going to be kind of on the outside of it, right?
Well, kind of like the guys that you brought here.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, last summer, some of the guys from the national team, for sure. Like, they're always going to be kind of on the outside, because this isn't what they do. This isn't where they live. And so for me, I'm always like on the outside, and it's cool to actually sit back and listen. And one of the things they were talking about was Karl Malone. You know who Karl Malone is? The mailman, one of the greatest centers of all time. Him and John Stockton and Utah Jazz.
Post Malone.
Close. But Carlos was saying that one time, because he was drafted by Utah, and he was the number one player in high school. He went to Duke, like incredible career, and he was a very high draft pick, and he went to Utah. And Karl Malone, Hall of Famer, maybe one of the top 5 centers of all time, something like that. He said, "I want to learn from you." And Karl Malone's like, "Oh, I have a ranch in Louisiana. That's where I go in the summer. Just come down for like 2 weeks." He's like, "All right, cool." So he went. He said that he had him stacking hay bales, putting on football cleats. He had a hill built on his property so that they could sprint hills in football cleats, like up a grass hill. Yeah. They were like catching goats and killing them, like that was their food. And basically, like Carl was like, none of this has anything to do with basketball, but it has everything to do with understanding the amount of work that isn't fun it takes to be great. Huh. Like if you're, and it's kind of that old school Rocky kind of mentality, Karate Kid mentality, wax on, wax off, where you don't really understand what's going on. But the lesson was that you have to do some of these things that you don't want to do, because the attitude now becomes, "Ugh, I don't want to do this. Ugh, I don't want to get in. Hey, I'm an NBA player. I don't want to run hills and football cleats. That's not what I do." To, "I'll do whatever it takes to get better. It doesn't matter what that thing is." And they were just talking about there's a loss of that in today's world, not just within the NBA, within a lot of things, where you used to have the OGs and people would respect the process, and they would try to learn from them and cultivate and go through that time. Exactly what we're talking about, taking the time to be consistently learning and going through that process. And nowadays, nobody wants to do that. Yep. Everybody wants to shine a light on themselves first, and they don't want to take the time and energy and effort to delay that perceived fame or perceived spotlight they have for a second to actually have lasting success.
Yeah, everybody, it's that instant gratification that unfortunately gets programmed into people, and there's really, it's hard to say, like it can't be taught, but it could be shown. So like someone can't say like, okay, yeah, you need to do the stuff you don't, like I say it all the time, you need to do stuff that makes you uncomfortable and maybe things you don't want to do, and it's not always the hardest route, but it's less comfortable than it would be if you did nothing. Yeah. Right? So we have a kind of thing at work where like me and my buddy, we kind of float a little bit at work. So we'll have like some trouble tickets or whatever, and just how the job's going. We call around and run around and go help people. It's kind of our thing. So we show up, we can get our trucks in certain places. We got smaller vehicles, and we can give the guys a hand, to kind of all bear the load. And it's funny because now I have an apprentice, and he sees that. So when we split up and I have to go do something, and I'm like running a crew for the day, he'll call me like, "Hey, I'm coming your way. What do you got?" And it's like, he was kind of a shitbag at the start, and it kind of bugged me, and I kind of made him know that. We had a long talk one day, and now it's like, okay, instead of me just saying, this is what I do all the time, you can follow me or not, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go here. You do you. I'm not going to look at you either way, but if you want to be better, if you want to improve,
right.
This is what we do, and we're pretty good at what we do. So now it's cool because I don't have to like ask him or tell him, say, this is what we're doing. Like, hey man, where you at? I'm coming your way. I want to get some more experience. Yeah. Okay, cool. I got a job for you. Let's go. So it's cool being able to like have that transition in my life to where I could see where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of leading him, as opposing to try to like, and then of course there's teaching and stuff involved, but that leadership and getting people to kind of follow the role that you're doing is huge for me personally, just to be a part of it and being able to implement it with people around me. It just feels like it's like, that's my gratification. Like, okay, he's picking up what I'm putting down and I don't have to write it out in crayon for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but to your point, you can't drag him into it.
Exactly. And then, it wouldn't be good for anybody.
No, it's not good for him. It's not good for you, because there's going to be consistent conflict because neither person really wants to be there.
Yeah.
That person has to choose, you know what? I am going to listen. I am going to follow your leadership. I'm going to follow your lead, and I'm going to try to soak up as much as I can. And, one of the early episodes we did was talking about formal education, right? Versus, hands-on application.
Yeah.
I think either side, whether it's an apprenticeship or it's a formal education, there is value in the fact that it takes X amount of time to be certified to do whatever it is you're trying to do, whether that's a degree or a trade. Mm-hmm. And you think about like, your brother Thurston, and he's been in school his whole life essentially at this point, right? But to be a doctor, well, guess what? That's going to weed out a lot of people who say, oh, it might be cool to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to go to school for 10 years? Like on top of the, grade school and high school and all that stuff? Like, no, I don't. Okay, then you're out. And I think there is some benefit in that. And I think when I was younger, I didn't necessarily understand that as much as I do now, that there is some benefit to having a minimum, decent amount of time before you're qualified to do something, whether you can do it or not, because you know that I'm going to put in that time and knowing that there's going to be this delay, because ultimately I think it's worth it. That means you value it. And I want to work with people who value what they do. I don't want to go to a doctor who thinks it's bullshit. I want to go to a doctor who's like, it's really valuable what I do and I care about what I'm doing. You don't want somebody to come train with us on our Be Better coaching because we're just trying to make a quick buck. We want somebody to come with us because we value coaching and we understand the importance of physical health and strength and how that can change your life. And that's the kind of people that you want to be with. So I'm all for that minimum amount of time to get into something as a barrier to entry. I think it's important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, like you were saying, like to someone to train with us, it's like we'd rather have somebody I'd rather have a client that is interactive than 20 clients that don't say anything and I never know how they're doing and they miss workouts. Like I'd rather just have one that's really good, because just seeing how like we could help them progress, because we've been at this a while and we're pretty good at our jobs of training people, and just seeing that progression in one person who shows up consistently. And it's cool because on the True Coach app, you can look at someone's profile, and I don't know if on their end, but on our end, we could see. I have one client that's coming up on 600 workouts with me.
Yeah, they can see it on there.
They can see it there. So it's cool because then you look over time, you're like, okay, yeah, we've been doing this for a while. Okay, I'm feeling better. Or like, man, I'm not really doing well that lately. You can go back. You can check your log. Like, man, when I first started with Tom or Jacob, I was squatting 225 and I just did 405 for a double and I'm complaining. And it's like, okay, there's sometimes you need to, it's not always just like gritting your teeth and pushing through and figuring it out. Like there's some aspects to that, that kind of pull your bootstraps up, but it's also like, okay, where was your starting point?
Yep.
And where are you now? And I think a lot of times people forget that. Like, that's why I said in the beginning too, it's like, well, look at how you are a father, how you are a husband. Like me 5 years ago, I wasn't a really good father. Like it was she was my oldest at the time was a baby. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this. I go, I don't know what it needs. It cries. I'm like, it's either poop or food or mom. Like It didn't even want me. She didn't even want me. Like it's very hard for me. Now it's like, I'm obviously better and improved and they can talk. So that does help me to figure out what they want. But if you look back and see how far you've come, sometimes that helps you push forward
100%.
in the consistency, which is sometimes boring. Right. And that's why I tell people to try to be uncomfortable, because that can kind of give you a little extra push, knowing that maybe what you're doing isn't directly applying to your current state of trying to be better at X, Y, and Z, But doing something uncomfortable can make you just feel better for the day, or you accomplished something harder. So maybe in the rest of your day or your job or with your family, you're going to be a little bit more maybe happier, right? Because you did something hard. If you do something easy all the time and you crush it, you're not going to feel that good. If you do something really hard in the mornings, a really hard workout, and get it out of the way, your day's automatically better.
Yeah.
And that's going to roll over. Even if your goal isn't to be the fittest person in the world, if you train in the morning and then go to work, you're probably going to be a better employee. You're going to be a better friend. You're going to be better at your house. You're going to relieve stress, all these things. It's just a domino effect of what can happen.
100%. But again, it still comes back to you have to want to put in that time. You have to want to put in that effort. And for some people, you said this earlier, I think you're kind of born with that. I do think some people, there's an innate drive that they want to figure that out. They don't mind putting in the time. I think for some people, you have to create a situation where you just get a little bit fed up with where you're at. So you, like you said, you assess, and this is on our kind of the front page of our website. Like, you got to assess where you're at and be honest about that. And you have to get a little pissed off. You know what? No, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to accept this in my life, because you're only going to make that change and get uncomfortable. In my opinion, if you hit a critical mass of enough information, stress, emotion comes in to the point where you're like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to get better. And, you've talked about this in relationships with communication. You can ignore something for a long time, as opposed to when you do finally talk about it, it usually gets emotional for a lot of people because you've been repressing it. But that kind of supernova of emotion and intensity ends up making things better 99% of the time.
Right.
And you have to go through that, and you have to kind of get fed up enough to want to do it. So, I would say for wherever you're at in your life, if there's something you want to improve on, like, assess it. And if it's not right, like, get a little pissed off. Like, expect more out of yourself. Expect a certain, standard out of yourself. These are things we talk about every week, but it's a good reminder to just go look at yourself and say, I deserve better, and I deserve to be better, and my family deserves it as well, and get fed up and freaking fix it. Just don't keep talking about it. Fix it.
And there's if looking back, like I focus on, doesn't give you motivation because you're not seeing the progress, there's this app. I don't know what it's called. I'd have to look it up. If somebody really want to know, they could DM me and I could find it. It's like Death Alert or something. It reminds you like 5 times a day with like some kind of like motivational quote, I think something. And it reminds you that, hey, you're going to die. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually you're going to die. So you might want to take care of the things you've been putting off now.
Yeah.
Because you hear, someone talk about like, oh, they died and they were so young and they didn't get to do this, or, the last thing you want to do, I think, is have regret in anything you do. But it's stuff that eats away at you. It's like the person that's bothering you, or something that you couldn't fix with somebody, they could be gone tomorrow. You could be gone tomorrow. So it kind of just puts that in perspective of like, it's not infinite, dude. This is not forever. This is all super temporary. Someone's going to live in your house. Someone's going to drive your cars. Like, this is all temporary. And I think people push things away. And I do it as well, like, because it's like, oh, I got time. I could deal with that later. And, oh, we'll figure this out later. We're going to talk about this. This is an uncomfortable conversation. I'll deal with this later. You push things off, and it's just like, man, you never know when you can't push it off anymore.
Yeah. And we can get into a whole episode about that. With my dad passing away early from Alzheimer's. He was 65 when he passed away, which is very early to die from that disease specifically. And the problem with that disease was he was diagnosed around 9 years before he passed. So basically, right when I came to Chicago, when I was finishing up school, that's when he was diagnosed. So I don't have regrets about not being able to spend more time with my dad specifically, because I didn't have the opportunity. But to your point about, do I wish, in hindsight, like I could have taken advantage or created more opportunities? 100% I do.
Yeah.
But I don't regret it because, like I said, I didn't really have a choice. My dad was so proud that I was working my ass off, because that's how he was. He was so proud that I was pursuing my dream, because that's what he worked hard for me to do. And that's how I slept at night, knowing that he was proud of me on that side. But anyway, we can dive into a whole episode about that. But again, end of the day, I think it's pretty simple. It's, assess where you're at, get to a place where you want to do something about it, and then just be consistent. Don't let the days or the times when it doesn't go well tank the ship. The Rock always has these like effort meals. 99% of the time he's eating perfect, right? and occasionally says F it and has a stack of pancakes and, brownies and all that other stuff. And don't let that F it be you're done as well. So you're going to have those times where it just doesn't feel right, it doesn't go right, you didn't make the right decision. Just say, you know what, I'm bigger than that one mistake, I'm better than that one mistake, and I'm going to figure it out. And just cultivate that tenacity, cultivate that discipline, and move forward.
That's a good way to end it.
Be better.
Also, now we have a sponsor.
What?
SubZero, my brother. He's going to send us a cold tub for the studio.
It's awesome.
So if you're looking to do something uncomfortable, if you want to raise your dopamine levels, cold plunging is a great way to do it. It's an adjustable cold plunge. You can control the temperature on your phone from, 48, 50 degrees down to 37, 36, give or take. I can't remember exactly the numbers. I don't have one here yet, but it's on its way. So if you want to do something uncomfortable, it's a huge dopamine effect. It lasts for like 4 hours. If you just did 3 minutes a day, it starts you out with doing something uncomfortable. So if there's something interested in cold plunge, if you're looking into it, you can use code BEBETTER at checkout, and you're going to save $250 just because you heard it on this podcast. And he is my brother. He owns the company. He's out of Austin, Texas, and they ship anywhere in the United States. So check them out, SubZeroPlunge.com.
And let me give you a plug for this. Every pro athlete facility I've been in the world has a cold tub. Every single one. The Miami Heat actually have a miniature pool that's all, 42 degrees roughly.
Really? That's pretty
like
cool.
A whole pool. I mean, you can have a whole team in there at one time if you wanted to. I'm just saying, there's a lot of things I think out there that are gimmicks. I think for centuries people have been using cold water for recovery methods and just enhancing their mood and performance. In the highest level of sports performance right now, you see every team has that on their facility. And so what I liked about this when I first heard about it was how easy it is, I think, to set up and take down, and then how convenient it is with the filter and the coolness. Like, it's so nice. I'm telling you, if it was 10 years ago, I could have had him come to the gym I used to run, and he could have sold 70 of them then and there.
Yeah.
Because every pro athlete would have loved to have something that nice in their house. They didn't do it because it's like your setup right now, where you kind of have the trough and it's very manually intensive. This is awesome. So from the sports performance side, let me just give it a vote of confidence.
Yep. They know what they're doing. There's a lot of research that backs it. It speaks for itself. So if you want to check them out, SubZeroPlunge.com, code BEBETTER. That's all we got. Next week you'll be out of town, right?
Well, it depends on when we record again, because if you don't drop this till Tuesday, we can do another one before the next drop. Okay. So we'll see.
Well, we'll see what happens. We never know on this show. So, but thanks guys for listening. If you want to support us more, support my brother, check out this website, his Cold Plunge. You want to support the company, check out our training, our nutrition, and our apparel. We have new apparel coming. We're trying to do either a new piece of apparel every month or a new design. We've been working on one design for like a month or two, and I just changed everything. Me and you got to talk about that. But just trying to do stuff different, mix things up, and just kind of make cool stuff. So if it's something you guys support, go check us out. Instagram and website, obviously. So, yeah. All right. That's all I got. Be better.